Historically, voice lessons were very sensation-based and emotion-based, but they featured route means of creating habits, do it over and over and over again until it sticks. And then we had this voice science stuff that emerged, and we started to look at the body in parts and pieces, and each part had a function as if we're made of like a million tiny little machines working on their own. And that's, that's just the narrative we inherited from biomechanics and anatomy, which literally means to cut up. So we have this inherited model of separation while we're never really in these parts. And now it's almost coming back and combining things, because singing, I think, learning can be sensation and emotion based, and led through a holistic expression or a holistic experience. But it's really about how organisms adapt over time. We have a lot of linear teaching that's like, do this and you'll get that. And that works to an extent, but there's often an end that you butt up against. And I taught that way for many years. So I have a deep appreciation for how effective it can be, but also sort of a feeling that there's more beyond that. And so, so instead of looking at teaching and learning as imparting information, it's really about negotiating experiences. And so let's do a little less. Over email, I just suggested having a song to sing. And by a song, I mean 15 seconds of a song, a phrase of a song that's not too easy, not too hard, something that doesn't have distracting challenges. Go and sing it right now. Take 15 seconds and just experience what it's like in this moment. I'll give you 15 seconds, and I'm going to do the same. Finish your phrase. And then sing it again, but sing it again with your voice off. So no sound, but everything else on, like a fully committed lip sync. So breathe how you normally breathe, move your mouth how you normally move your mouth, do everything the same, or as much of the same as you possibly can, just with your voice off, and notice what you notice. And if there's anything interesting that came into your mind's eye, just unmute and say it out loud. If turning your voice off provided something new in your senses.
I felt like my diction was a little more clear and like I was more aware of, especially my top lip, like forming R's, and yeah, just kind of being more clear about the consonants.
Interesting. Cool.
I seem to get a little bit more space, and yeah, just between the words that I was singing beforehand, and now it felt like I had time, because nothing else was happening aside from me doing that shaping.
Let's add on. Keeping your voice off, I want you to explore an emotional quality. And I'm going to give you some ideas. And it doesn't matter what the song is actually asking for. If it's a love song, you can still sing it angrily and find out what that feels like. Or if it's an angry song, you can still feel like you're singing something that's lovely. So why don't you sing it again with your voice completely off, and notice what happens in your body if you make it overjoyed, like Maria on the mountaintop singing "The Hills Are Alive with the Sound of Music." And just notice how your body shifts. And instead of overjoyed with happiness, what if it was overwhelmed with sadness? With your voice off, go explore and really convince yourself you're really telling this story that's super duper sad. So go as far as you feel comfortable going to really get some new biofeedback. And what if you were angry? Really, really assertive, really putting your foot down, really making a statement here. Exploring one more different emotional quality, explore fearfulness. See how that shifts your body into a different organization. There might be a host of things that shift. And in ways we can turn on the lights to bring more into your conscious awareness. So I'm putting the 4 different emotional qualities in the chat, noticing that Janet felt her soft palate higher in a good way. Interesting, cool. And go explore any of those qualities of emotion that interested you, that felt like, oh, that was something different. And notice, how do you use your breath differently? How does your body tension differently? A different quality in the fabric of your body. Maybe you use your mouth differently. Maybe your eyes go to a different place, or you hold your head and neck in a different way. And those are just a few of a million possibilities, but go and look around, let your mind's eye wander as you explore differences between happiness, sadness, anger, fear, maybe other emotions that you're like, I want to try that one. This one makes sense with my song. Maybe I can invest a little bit more specificity with my lyrics. This is your lesson, so take it where you want to go. And we'll meet up again in 30 seconds. An interesting comment is in the chat. Judith just said, angry gave me exact diction, joyful, freedom in the throat, fear pulled the sound backwards, place of articulation back in the mouth, sad, longer phrases are easier. That's some very cool feedback, and that's kind of the purpose of what this is all about, is we can really turn the lights on and create a feedback loop between how our body satisfies the intentions that we give it. And it's hard to get that kind of feedback when our sound is on, because the sound on can be distracting. We're listening to it. We're trying to mold it in the environment, and we lose out sometimes on the actual physical organization or the sensations of singing. From the chat, happy, tongue floated up higher in the back, sad, jaw more relaxed, angry, rougher sound in my mind, more constriction in the throat, fearful, imagine pitch became less stable. Janet saying, I was actually struggling to give it all without voice and realized that it's become I over-rely on what I hear. Haha. I have been trying to address that. Very cool. You have a new dialogue, a new relationship to make. Awesome. So why don't you sing your little snippet of a song again, and just recognize, anything new that happens or anything that your body borrows from those experiences just on its own. It might self-organize in a different way. Feel free to keep singing or share a little bit about your experience if anything shifted. In the chat, Rachel says, I found that my body started the whole song higher, and it's a belty song, but I wasn't there today. However, I found the navigation back down from my comfort zone was not so clunky. Kelly, share with us.
So I think my song, the happiness filter, was the most sort of logical match to that. And so I found that when I sang it without vocalizing, I had a much brighter position, and I think as a classical singer, I tend to, and in my own just person, I gravitate towards warm sounds and sometimes miss out on some of the brightness of my voice. That's just not where I gravitate. And as I'm moving into more contemporary music, I've got to find that, or I end up having to oversing to even manage, and so the whole sound was just brighter, sat in a higher place, and was less taxing, which is essential because some of what I'm doing is a kind of light pop belt, and I can easily I got to do 3-hour sets. You can get really tired. I mean, as a classical singer, I never have to sing more than about an hour. And when you go out to play in a brewery or, a set, they expect a 3-hour set, which is a whole thing I'm wrapping my head around. But anyway, makes efficiency essential.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you said something really interesting, that your body had some strategies for efficiency already embedded within it. That's very cool, how efficiency emerged just from turning the voice off. In the chat, Chris is saying sad, more aware of abdominal engagement and voice sounded sweeter. Angry, much more aware of out-breath and energized consonants. Fear, throat felt slightly tight and voice sounded timid. And what's interesting about this is there's no judgment about any of this stuff. You could sing all of these emotional qualities with your voice on and feel a little scratch or tickle or go, oh, I don't want to do that again. But that's really a part of how organisms learn. We had to fall down to be able to stand up and stay up. And we had to fall down a lot. And every time we fell down in a slightly different way. And every time we stood up in a slightly different way. And it's through that process of holding an intention, I want to stand up and stay up, and trial and error until I get it, that we self-organize into a new skill, into a new ability, into a new possibility. And we learned way more than just how to stand up in those early days of life when we were falling down all the time, because we also were learning how to stand up and stay up against the wind when we're on different kinds of surfaces, when we're withstanding different forces around us, whether we have bags on our back, bags on our front, bags on our sides, whether we're holding somebody's hand, whether, like we're carrying a baby. We learned how to have this skill that is so versatile and so anti-fragile or resilient. And so this is part of why nonlinear pedagogy is so important in this process, is because it prepares the body to have many right answers, many possible outcomes, and to find the outcomes that don't feel great are just as important as finding the outcomes that feel great, because it helps the body discern, helps the body learn, this is going to be more effective, this is going to be more efficient. And we can rely on our subconscious homeostatic systems to choose wisely, because all biological organisms are interested and invested in the lowest energy, the easiest pathway, survival. So your nervous system, if you show it many options from that's really, really hard to that's super duper easy, and you continue to show it these options over time, it will create new pathways for you. And you don't ever have to say, do this one every time, which is kind of a fool's journey anyway, because everything inside of us is changing from day to day and minute to minute, and everything outside of us is changing from day to day and minute to minute, whether you're in the same theater or a different recording studio or a space that was once clean and is now dirty. You're dealing with all these factors on a subconscious level. And so you need all these possible outcomes to be embedded within you so that the easiest possibility will emerge in the moment. That's what this is all about, an organism being able to adapt to changing situations and having that be embedded in the form rather than extracted from knowledge. Right? This is kind of a cornerstone. This to me is what happens in the shower or the car when something new comes out, something brand new emerges from your voice, and you're like, where did that even come from? That was pretty amazing. And I didn't know I could do that. We're creating a network that connects the vocal technique aspects to the expression aspects, to the performance aspects, to the resonance with the audience, the way we engage with the music. It's all connected, because ideally our voice training is preparing for the outcome, whether it's, I'm a musical theater person, so I often say on stage, but whether it's in a concert hall, a recording studio, singing in a club, a set in a concert, I mean, wherever you perform or wherever the outcome is, we can fold that into the training so it's all integrated for the outcome, because at some point it has to be. And I don't know when that happens or how that happens if not brought into the training. But I do know that a lot of performers are saying I was stuck in my head. And theoretically, we're stuck in our head because that's how we learn to sing, through information. And for me, I think it comes through experience. And that experience, like you're reflecting, oh, when I sang with more happiness, I had more wide open space. It becomes a bottom-up learning experience that feeds up to knowledge. And so we learn through experience first, and then it becomes this knowing, and the knowing might not be like the textbook. It might not be, oh, I widened my soft palate because of my tensor veli palatini. It might just be, oh, the shape shifted in this way, which might be the more practical kind or form of information. So it's a very personal journey. And this lesson would have been really different if I said, now go be happy and make sure you feel more wide space. This was what emerged through your experience of going from emotions that you know and allowing new information to be gleaned from your nervous system.